If you are located in Chicago or Illinois for that matter, and you think you will get your pension one day, I have a news flash for you. The system is so overburdened and indebted that the only possible solution the government can provide to rescue it will be to slash payments. There is no possible way this can continue, particularly following the next recession. It is mathematically impossible. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to talk about my favorite topic, and some of yours as well, pensions. It is so important to understand this, yet we're never going to see it in the mainstream media. We hardly see it mentioned in the alternative news. And why? Because it's not so cool to talk about. It's not so happy. But we need the truth. We need to know what's going on with people's pensions, because already today we have seen several examples of pensions being slashed. And the key number that I have found over history has been 30%. When they go to slash, it's 30%. Now, the governor of California had said in the next recession, they will have to slash pensions. That's what he said. Not me. That's what he said. So we're going to see if that actually takes place. But today the topic is Chicago. We're going to talk about Chicago and Illinois. I'm going to bring you some charts here. I'm going to bring you some articles. And most of this is from Wire Points. I'm going to quickly go through these and just bring you the information you need to know. Chicagoans' real pension burden is $130 billion, nearly double the official numbers. How many times have you heard that the statistics you have been provided do not really show you the truth? Oh, maybe once or twice. Right. Chicagoans' overlapping pension debt, official unfunded pension liabilities versus Moody's adjusted net pension liabilities. This is from 2017 numbers. And you could see 70 billion they show you. In reality, 130 billion. But I believe it's probably much more than that. Now, we're looking at this. It's a big gap, a big difference. Now, when all of these statistics are showing you that it's really bad, that's based on the 70 billion. And then you see it's actually 130 billion. We're way beyond the point of ever going back. It's impossible to dig out of this mess. It's not going to happen. They're going to slash payments on people, and that's the only way that this will ever be resolved. And it's not as if it's actually resolved. That's what they're going to do in order to fix their funding problem. Oh, we can't pay these people the amount we've been paying them because that's going to make this fund bankrupt. Oh, I got an idea. Let's just cut the amount we pay people. Brilliant. Problem solved. Chicagoans burdened with $125,000 in overlapping pension liabilities, according to Moody's. It breaks it all down by the 4 city-run funds, the Teachers' Pension Fund, the Park District, so on. Okay, so you could see all the breakdown there. Just totaling it up. And we have to understand there are these liabilities which exist. They put them on the books. We have them all there. And we know they're overburdened. It's overcapacity. They can't pay out. And then we look at what goes off the balance sheet, the unfunded liabilities. And it's just way beyond anything. It's going all the way down to a place like Chicago, but we can bring that up to the federal, to the national level, and we see that these problems are persistent everywhere. They're pervasive anywhere you look. Sure, some areas definitely better than the others, but let's just take the average. Let's go to the major cities where the major population is, where the most of the pension money is, or supposed to be, and you see a problem. You see these holes and these cracks everywhere. Chicago rated junk. Now, I'm not one to really look at any of these rating agencies and actually believe their ratings. I mean, come on, they rated AAA to the biggest pile of garbage you've ever seen. And you remember that from 2007. And so I don't really look at what they say as if, oh, they said it's junk, now it's junk. But let's take it for what it is. The highest quality rating, lowest credit risk, cities like Austin, Charlotte, Columbus, Indianapolis, San Antonio, San Francisco, Seattle. All right? They're at the top of the list. Who's at the bottom? Well, the city of Chicago. And this is, by the way, speculative grade junk. Chicago Public Schools and Detroit makes the list as well. Unbelievable. It's in the junk category. Terrible to see it. Chicago pension collapsed during the market's longest bull run in history. How do you explain that? S&P 500 index versus the unfunded pension liabilities of Chicago's different funds. Now, looking at this, I see unfunded liabilities simply, just ultimately getting worse. How is this possible when the stock market has been rising for nearly 10 years? Since March 2009, up until today, the market has been going up. Why in the world are they unable to come up with the money? It's completely nonsensical, and the money is being stolen. The money is being put somewhere else. I don't know where, but I can tell you right now, it's not being used appropriately. Chicago pensions are only half to quarter funded. 2017 funding ratios of Chicago pension funds. Look at that. Wherever you look, laborers, teachers, municipal, police, fire, it's terrible. Where is the funding? Where is it? I've got a problem with this, and you should as well. This should be a warning signal. This should be a red flag to you, not just if you live in Chicago, not just if you live in Illinois, but we've got this problem going on all over the place. I've talked about Connecticut and Kentucky. I've talked about so many now, even around the world, and even in the private sector as well. This is a big problem. Chicago has the largest pension debt versus revenue burden of the 10 biggest cities. City market adjusted unfunded pension debt versus city revenues 2017. Now, Chicago, you can see that 12x there. Dallas is 5x. So that's a huge gap. They're far further burdened than these other major cities around. I mean, this is a big city. We need to look at the big cities because that's where the most population is. That's where most of the pension is going, right? Chicagoans have the highest total general and pension debt burden. Total general debt and adjusted net pension liability burden imposed by overlapping governments on city residents per capita. Looking at this, Chicago over 50,000. Then beyond that, we have New York, Los Angeles, and so on. But there's city debt, there's a share of other local debt, and there's a share of state debt. So we can see how it's broken down. In Chicago, it's just a bunch of everything. All right, now New York is a different situation. City debt's very high, and others are very low in comparison. And, you could see that for yourself if you're interested on the other ones. According to a new report by Moody's Investors Service, Illinois unfunded pension liabilities equaled 601% of state revenues in 2017. That's a U.S. record. Okay. I read this and I thought to myself, what the hell did I just read? 601%. How is this possible to ever keep this going? Illinois pension debt has set a new record to which no state should aspire. And I totally agree with that. How in the world did they ever get to this point? It's unbelievable. Unfunded pension liabilities grew 25% in fiscal year 2017 to $250 billion. That equates to 600% of owned source revenue, meaning money brought in by the state, excluding federal funds. That ratio of pension debt to revenue is the highest on record for any U.S. state. The nation's median is 107%. Okay, so they're way beyond that. This is terrible, and it's ultimately going to mean slashing of payments one day. A lot of people don't like to hear this, but you can read in the comments, generally not in the first few days, but it happens to come 3, 4, 5 days or a week or beyond that when individuals are tuning into these videos that are not my subscribers. They come in and they are fearful. They're fearful, and I could sense the fear from the comments, and they say, "You are spreading fear. You are doing nothing but hurting everybody. And all I'm doing here is reading charts and articles. That's it. You tell me what you think this means." Oh, they're unfunded, so then they're going to create a magical tax that's going to fill in all the gaps? How does that work? You're going to pay for it in one way or another. Illinois downgraded 21 times to just above junk rating. Look at that. Over the years, breaks it down, whether you look at Moody's, S&P, and Fitch, doesn't matter to me. They're basically all the same anyway, and you can see that they are just constantly saying, nope, junk, 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 and they're bringing it down lower and lower. Growing pension costs consume larger share of Illinois state spending, and you can see the green lines here. That's the total pension-related expenditures continuing to increase year after year after year after year. And of course, this is projecting it into the future. It's just going to get worse and worse as time goes on. That shouldn't surprise anybody. All right, what's the solution, right? I'm talking about the fact that they will have to slash spending. What do you do when you have too much taxation, you have too much expenditure, you have people who need more money today? Well, they have seemed to come up with the conclusion, and that is universal basic income. That's right, free money for everyone. Rahm Emanuel form a task force that will consider implementing the so-called universal basic income program in the city as the embattled mayor seeks to cement his progressive legacy after promising not to run for another term. So here we are, another place around the world going for this whole universal basic income. In Switzerland, they have voted for it now, and we'll see if they actually implement it. They've tried experiments around the world. Most of them have been a failure as far as I'm aware, or are still going on today. But look, you give people money, that's not going to make up for the shortfall, okay? You need to find a way to get the engine running. You don't just try and take money from one part and put it to another. How do you fund it? That's what's so illogical about universal basic income, about taxation in general, is that it's funded by the taxpayers. It's never going to be funded by the major corporations. I don't understand why people don't get that. The major corporations don't pay taxes, or they pay a very small percentage of taxes. They're able to keep their corporations in tax shelters. They have shell companies. They have ways to not pay taxes. They pay millions and millions of dollars a year to make sure they don't pay billions of dollars a year. It's very smart on their part, and that's the ultimate goal here, is to ensure that the middle class doesn't exist. So that's what's going on here. I think it's ridiculous to implement this type of thing. I think that people need to be empowered. We need lower taxation, and we need more prosperity. That's what we need. We need to have people out there who can really work hard and can do what they need to do. And then if they're able to get, in the end, they'll have the ability basically to fend for themselves. We don't need all these safety nets out there, but that's not the way it works today, unfortunately. If you found the video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support the channel, so I do appreciate that very much. And last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my books even more informative. You can check these books out at Amazon. There's a link in the description of the video. If you're more interested in the audiobook, you can get that at themoneygps.com.